Overthinking in relationships is one of the most exhausting emotional habits a person can experience. It often begins with something very small: a delayed text, a slightly different tone of voice, a change in routine, and suddenly your mind starts creating stories that don't exist. You replay conversations again and again, trying to understand what your partner really meant. You analyze their words, their silence, their mood, their reactions, and before you know it, your brain has built an entire worst-case scenario. But overthinking is not simply thinking too much. Psychology defines it as rumination, a repetitive, fear-based cycle where the brain tries to protect you from potential emotional pain by imagining every possible danger in advance. The strange thing is that overthinking is rarely about your partner at all. It's usually about your past, your insecurities, and your fear of losing something important. The human brain is wired to protect us. When you've been betrayed, ignored, abandoned, or hurt in previous relationships, your mind becomes hyper-alert. Even when your current partner is loving and loyal, the emotional memory of past pain whispers warnings in the background. Your brain tells you, "This happened before, and it hurt. Don't let it happen again." So you start to analyze their behavior, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because you fear repeating the past. This fear often comes from attachment styles. People with anxious attachment, for example, constantly worry about being left or not being enough. They overthink text messages, tone, replies, and even silence. Meanwhile, people with avoidant attachment fear emotional closeness and often shut down or distance themselves. Overthinking becomes a survival strategy, an attempt to predict pain before it arrives. Low self-worth plays another major role. If deep down you believe you're not good enough or that people always leave, then every little thing becomes proof of those beliefs. A delayed message suddenly means they're bored of you. A short answer feels like rejection. Their tiredness reads like emotional withdrawal. Your brain starts connecting dots that don't actually exist, and this creates emotional storms out of small misunderstandings. Fear of loss also contributes heavily. Psychology shows that the human mind fears losing something far more than it enjoys gaining something. When your partner becomes important to you, the fear of losing them becomes stronger than the relationship itself, and your thoughts spiral even when nothing is wrong. When communication is unclear, the brain fills in the blanks, but it almost never fills them with positive thoughts. Instead of thinking, "Maybe they're busy," your mind jumps to, "Maybe they're losing interest." This is because the brain hates uncertainty. It would rather believe a frightening story than accept, "I don't know." So it creates assumptions, predictions, scenarios, and explanations, most of which have nothing to do with reality. And when you depend too much on your partner for emotional stability, overthinking becomes even more intense. If your relationship becomes the center of your emotional world, any small change, like a slower reply or a different tone, feels like a threat. Psychologically, overthinking activates the amygdala, the brain's fear center. This triggers anxiety and a fight-or-flight response, even when no real threat exists. Your body reacts as if something dangerous is happening, even though the danger is only your imagination. This leads to cognitive distortions like mind reading, catastrophizing, personalization, and emotional reasoning. These distortions make your fears feel real, even when they are completely false. Love also releases dopamine, and when reassurance becomes uncertain, the brain becomes addicted to seeking it. This is why you check messages repeatedly, analyze emojis, reread conversations, and monitor your partner's online behavior. Overthinking creates very specific signs. You replay conversations in your head. You assume negative intentions even when your partner is innocent. And you create imaginary scenarios that never happened. You apologize too often, not because you did something wrong, but because you fear upsetting them. You seek constant reassurance, believing that if your partner doesn't affirm you repeatedly, something must be wrong. You start monitoring their behavior, reply speed, tone, mood, social media activity, and any small change triggers anxiety. Eventually, you begin predicting problems before they even happen, trying to prepare yourself emotionally for potential pain. Unfortunately, overthinking can damage relationships even when you don't intend to. It creates emotional exhaustion, both for you and your partner. They may start feeling like they are always being observed, tested, or doubted, even when they've done nothing wrong. Small misunderstandings escalate into big arguments because fear magnifies everything. It becomes difficult for trust to grow when your mind constantly assumes danger. Your partner may start to feel pressured to constantly reassure you, which can make them feel overwhelmed. And over time, the relationship becomes a cycle of fear instead of comfort. The good news is that overthinking can be controlled. One of the most effective methods is learning to separate feelings from facts. You might feel ignored, but the fact is, your partner may simply be busy. You might feel they're losing interest, but the fact is, they've shown you love consistently. Asking yourself, is this a fact or just my fear, can instantly break the overthinking cycle. Techniques like the 10-10-10 rule also help. Will this matter in 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 months? Most fears dissolve instantly. Replacing assumptions with communication is crucial. Instead of imagining what they feel, calmly ask, "Can I check something with you?" This invites clarity instead of conflict. Stopping the habit of monitoring their behavior is also essential. Checking online status, reply times, read receipts, or tone through text only fuels anxiety. You cannot measure love through a phone screen. Identifying your triggers, like silence, mood changes, or delays, helps you understand where your fear comes from. Writing your thoughts down and comparing them with reality is another powerful method because it forces your brain to think logically instead of emotionally. Building a full life outside your relationship also reduces overthinking. When your entire emotional world doesn't depend on one person, every small change stops feeling like a threat. Talking openly to your partner about your overthinking, when done calmly, can also strengthen the relationship. Saying something like, "Sometimes I overthink because of my past, not because of you," helps them understand your emotional needs. A healthy partner will respond with patience, reassurance, and understanding. Emotional self-regulation techniques, like deep breathing, delaying emotional reactions, or taking short breaks when overwhelmed, help prevent anxiety from taking control. Challenging your worst-case scenarios by asking, "What evidence do I actually have?" often eliminates 90% of fears immediately. And working on your self-worth gradually transforms your relationship with your thoughts. When you believe you deserve love, you stop automatically assuming the worst. Healthy relationships are not built on constant communication or perfect behavior. They're built on consistency, trust, and emotional balance. A partner who doesn't reply immediately isn't necessarily losing interest. They might be busy, tired, or mentally occupied. Stability comes from long-term patterns, not momentary fluctuations. No partner can read your mind. Expressing your needs is essential. Even arguments are normal. What matters is how both people repair and reconnect afterward. A simple daily routine can significantly reduce overthinking. Starting your morning with calming affirmations helps set the tone for the day. Avoiding instant emotional reactions during the day prevents unnecessary anxiety. Journaling at night helps you separate fear from reality. And practicing gratitude trains your mind to notice what's going well instead of what might go wrong. If overthinking becomes overwhelming despite all efforts, seeking help through therapy or emotional coaching is a sign of strength, not weakness. In the end, overthinking doesn't mean you're broken. It means you feel deeply. It means you care. But your past doesn't define your future, and your fears don't define your relationship. Your thoughts are not facts. You deserve peace, trust, and emotional stability. You deserve a love that feels safe rather than stressful. And with awareness, communication, and self-growth, you can absolutely become someone who loves confidently instead of anxiously.